Hello, everybody. I'm Third Will. Tonight, we're going to be studying and getting the opinions on is trans gay? So, my guests tonight are Submarine Nick, as usual.
Hey, nice to meet you.
And then we've got a first timer on the show, Natty Cat.
Hiya!
So, let's get the ball rolling. This topic started because of a certain princess who dragged me into a turf war.
Well, I wouldn't claim I'm a princess necessarily, but I'll take it.
Diva. However, more or less the conversation went downhill quickly, but it was about trans women being considered lesbian or bisexual or not homosexual at all.
Yeah, a lot of the conversation that we ran into was from the point of view of, in context, what we were talking about was a lot of TERFs.
Yeah.
Which, beyond their own viewpoint, a lot of what they were claiming is that it's impossible for a trans woman to be a lesbian because we're genetically, quote-unquote, male. Which is not necessarily truly inaccurate because we do possess the XY chromosomes, which is what they are claiming. And a lot of the statements came down to, if we're boiling it down to its most basic manner, that a lesbian would not be attracted to a person who has XY chromosomes no matter what the gender expression looked like.
I mean, I've been out of the dating game for a while because I've been married for a long time, but I will tell you that I don't remember looking into chromosomes when I was dating people. I never thought, them some nice chromosomes, I'd hit that.
Oh,
That's
I do.
normally not the thing anyone thinks about, actually. In fact, the only thing you're really concerned about, most people I know, is what their face and body shape is typically the thing people look at. Do they have big tits? Do they got a big ass? You know, how's their face look? They got a cute face. You know, how's their hair look? Like, we look at a lot of secondary sex characteristics. That's what we look at when we're looking for someone we think is hot or not, period.
I agree with that. A lot of what my arguments looked like when I was talking online was that a lot of the way that we identify a person as male or female or etc. is based upon what we initially see them as based on their secondary sex characteristics, which is what you said. And most trans people, either male to female or female to male, are going to express the gender secondary characteristics of whatever their expressed gender is based on their homotherapy. Now, the argument that was brought up was that they would be able to identify them based on their appearance because they would still look masculine despite the fact of having gone through transition. And while I do agree that can happen more often than a lot of trans people would like to admit, where we still look like the gender that we were assigned at birth, is that really a valid argument? Because like you said, secondary sex characteristics, as we all identify by, right?
Here's the thing. If I'm attracted to someone that's trans, it's purely on the secondary sex characteristics. If you showed me a picture of a very attractive woman and then told me, hey, by the way, in those pants, packing a little something extra, if I had not known that beforehand, I would be 100% attracted to the image. Now, here's the thing. I'm not attracted to men or the look of men. If you showed me Buck Angel, for example, the most classic example of this argument, I would not be attracted to Buck Angel. He looks like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't care how tight that vagina is. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I can't imagine wrapping my mind around having sex with Stone Cold Steve Austin no matter what's dangling anywhere. It's just not going to work because I'm not attracted to his secondary sex characteristics.
So
that's a huge part of attraction.
So what you're saying is you wouldn't give hell to his cell?
No. No, I would not. Well, here's the thing. If I'm attracted to women, if you look like a woman, I will find you attractive to some degree, depending on my preferences, right? So if I was gay, I would not be looking for feminine qualities in you. I'd be looking for the masculine traits that I find attractive, because I'd be attracted to men. Therefore, if I'm attracted to a girl, regardless of their genitalia, it is because I am attracted to women. Therefore, if someone is a lesbian and they're attracted to a trans individual that's male to female, it's because they look like a woman and they can get to that.
Some of the part of the argument that I was presented was that lesbians would be able to tell because they're
Superhuman?
Well, I mean, I don't know about anything like that. They did not describe how they'd be able to tell. The argument presented online was they presented several pictures of people who were transgender, and some of them very easily passed, others did not. And their point of view was, well, can't you tell the difference? Well, all lesbians can.
How do they know all lesbians can? That's an unwinnable debate right there.
That's my point.
That's like saying all Americans love Coke. All I have to do is find one person that doesn't like Coke, and the argument falls apart. That's dumb.
Yeah.
That is a dumb point to hinge it on. Guarantee you I could find you a lesbian that won't know. I can hardly tell the difference at all. Really. I mean, I made fun of all the time for it, unfortunately, but I can't... I have a hard time telling if someone was... if someone's trans or not. I have a hard time seeing those distinctions.
Well, let me pose you this. So, let's say that, for example... You ended up in the bedroom, sans married. You ended up in the bedroom with somebody who is a male to female transgender, and found out they had a penis. Would the attraction all of a sudden end?
See, that's the difficult question to answer. That's one of the things you have to be in a situation for, and I haven't been in that situation because I've never been with anyone with male genitalia in any way, so I don't know. I would have to say I would have to be. Probably at least bisexual to be okay with that. I would consider it to be a deal breaker for a lot of people.
Yeah, that'd be a deal breaker for me.
Okay, well, I can understand that.
But I would not say I'd be gay in that instance because I'm not into it because of just the male anatomy, or I wouldn't have been with him in the first place.
What now? Okay, so let me throw you this. What if that person said, "Ignore this. I don't like it anyway. In fact, I dislike it as much as you do. Treat me just like you would a woman. You just got to play with a different hole instead."
Wow.
And they actually went through the lengths to do something to make it ignorable. Does that change things?
Can you unsee things?
I don't know. I'm not asking about that. I just want to know what you think.
No, what's my point? You can't. So you know now.
Yeah, but putting on blinders works better for some people or personalities than others.
So let me weigh in on this as somebody who is single, who is in the dating game, and my God, is it sad. If I was with somebody and they didn't tell me that they were trans the entire time we had dated up to whatever date led to home plate, and they let me know that they've got a little bit of a surprise for me, and it turns out to be, cock and balls, I'm probably going to, one, it's going to be a boner kill for me. Two, I'm probably going to be more upset that they lied to me in a sense and not been straight up honest with me, more than I am going to be anything else. And I don't know about you, but that lying's kind of a big turnoff.
All right, well, which brings us to another interesting point, which is if they had already gone through transition and had sexual reassignment surgery where they had removed their penis and turned it into a vagina, and let's assume you couldn't tell the difference because anymore the visual aspects of it are very similar.
It's aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I would hope, right? But we all have our own tastes. So, not to
it doesn't look like a hand grenade went off on a deli counter.
No, can't imagine that most surgeons go in there and be like, it needs a little more roast beef. I don't think that's probably what they're thinking.
I want to get that downtown look.
I don't think they're
beef,
going...
it's what's for dinner.
I don't think they're going, this needs a side of au jus when they're done. That's...
you.
That said, though, if you had a transgender individual who was like that, does that make a difference?
Oh, honestly, if it came down to the point where take off skirt or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry if it looks a little weird because I had surgery or something," being self-conscious about the body, you're like, well, doesn't look like mine. It looks like, a vagina. There's worse.
I've
There's
stuck my
better.
dick in other things that looked vagina-like for that reason, so I don't think I'd have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So,
Like this fleshlight, it looks like a vagina.
it does the job, right?
It does the fucking job just fine.
And
I
that's
recommend it to anybody.
And
Actually.
that's an inanimate object, and as long as it has the proper appearance, it still applies.
Yes.
Sure.
So basically, what we're saying here, if I had to summarize this, is that it doesn't matter what the chromosomes are. All that matters is the appearance of gender.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like at some point there's any truth to the idea that people who are strictly gay or strictly lesbian would be able to tell, oh, well, this person is not my taste?
Unless they climb up into your vagina and see if you have a attached uterus and ovaries, there's no way in hell a lesbian's going to be able to tell.
I think it's more of a pride and ego thing. Let me tell you something. If I painted your car gold and it looks like it's made of gold because you really like gold, right? Does it matter it's not actually gold? Does it matter if it isn't actually gold? It just looks like gold?
Some people might argue that it does. I don't necessarily know.
And the people that would worry about that would be what kind of people?
Shallow?
Yeah.
People who are really big on their pride or whatever kind of hang-ups they have. They want the real deal gold. I mean, it would drive like shit because it'd be heavy as fuck, but that's what they want. No, I'm certainly not trying to conflate a transgender person with a fake anything or whatever. I'm just simply saying the fact is that, just because it isn't the chromosomal, homegrown from straight old, good old-fashioned, puberty into a woman, a woman growing up that way, doesn't mean it's not actually a woman. It's a woman.
For all intents and purposes, it might as well be.
And,
Yeah, why not? It has all the other characteristics, the lactate, I mean, yes.
Look at this. Hysterectomy. Women who have hysterectomies.
Oh, yeah, you certainly cannot claim they are not women.
Yeah. But, like they said in the Twitter chat, that or Twitter argument, rather, that it's what you're born with. And I was going to make a Maybelline joke, but...
But
Well,
to
that
clarify real
brings-
quick, I didn't mean it in a derogatory way, just so that's clear.
No,
Yeah.
as a transgender individual, I absolutely understand that. And if I ever thought anyway, I would call you, I'd call you out on it. But my thought, too,
Or throw shoes at you.
Yeah, the internet.
right?
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, too, though, is to go back to what you were talking about, is the idea of, what makes a woman a woman,
Right.
right? If you have a hysterectomy and you all of a sudden lose these parts, are you still a woman? And I think most people would argue that, yes, you still are.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, too, though, is that what about intersex individuals who are born with maybe one chromosomal pattern or another and
Yeah.
have a
A little bit of both.
that, but there's also certain syndromes that produce people who have the XY chromosomal pattern, but have a intolerance towards androgens such as testosterone, and so grow up genetically, well, not genetically, but grow up female. They produce ovaries and
Yeah.
uteruses and vaginas, even though they have the XY pattern. So would lesbians not be attracted to them?
No, that makes zero sense.
But they're not genetic female. And lesbians are only attracted to genetic females, though. How
That-
would they not be attracted?
That's absolutely absurd.
They
Like
can
when I was
smell
saying
the
referring
Y
to
out
it,
chromosomes.
the it I'm talking about here is a blank slate. It is a blank mound of human genetic material. Is an
Tabula
it,
rasa.
is the it, right? So an it can either become male or female eventually down the line. More masculine traits or more feminine traits, one way or the other. Just because you have less masculine traits but you're still a male doesn't mean you're not a male, etc. Vice versa, more female traits. But the thing is, the secondary sex characteristics, I think, are really what drives home what we find attractive and what makes someone else something else. So, the genetic material, if it develops like a woman and doesn't do anything to change that, it becomes a woman. Or if it grows up to be male that way, it becomes a male. If you go and change, you change the hormones, the secondary sex characteristics, the look and flow of the body, it ceases to function as whatever it originally grew up to be and becomes something else.
I would put this out there as well. I feel like for myself, I would totally be fine with having sex with a transgender male to female and genetic females. I'm attracted to feminine form. I don't care what the genitals are attached to it. They don't mean anything to me. For me, a lot of the attraction and the turn on comes from all of the other things outside of genitals. And as long as you, and I hate to say pass because it's kind of exclusionary in some instances, but in general, for me, that's the attraction. Now, some people who are lesbian, born cis female, are attracted to cis females who are more masculine cis females. What would you call butch?
Yeah.
What is it about them they're attracted to? Is it their chromosomes? What is it? What establishes that attraction?
I think what it boils down to this. People want what they want. And in my opinion, if you're sitting here saying, hey, all lesbians feel this way, you're obviously incorrect because you don't know what all lesbians think. You can't possibly know that. No one fucking knows that. That's insane. That's an absurd point to defend. Ludicrous. Not even worth defending. It can be disproven within moments. You know? The thing is, if you're a lesbian and you like someone that's trans and you only like female secondary sex characteristics, who fucking cares? Because you're only with them because you like the way they look as a woman in the first place. If you thought they were a man and they looked like a man, then you wouldn't have been attracted to them in the first place.
I think what it comes down to is, I'll get to this before we go into our closing thoughts, is I think they were just jealous because you got a built-in strap-on.
Well, I kind of do, but and here's that brings up another solid point though, that most people, I hate to say most, but there are a significant portion of people who are transgender who don't want any attention paid to their genitals at all.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, for men who are attracted to women, a transgender person is just as good in terms of like the way that you're going to interact with them minus the vagina. It's a different whole, I admit, and there are differences that come with that, but you're not going to be interacting with their penis.
True.
Because there are a significant portion of transgender individuals who are male to female who do not want interaction with their penis in any way, shape, or form. They don't derive any sort of sexual pleasure from that.
Right. My counterpoint to that is the whole reason you find attraction is through assumptions based on what you see. And if you happen to see those characteristics, like genitalia, that you didn't think they had, I would assume a very high chance that people who aren't into that won't be able to get over that roadblock.
Yeah.
Unless they're bi.
I think there are maybe certain things that can be done to alleviate that to a degree. I don't think maybe completely, but maybe just enough to maybe get through it. An example or a case in point may be made to alcohol. Or, for the sake of example, like let's say a person who, I'll use Princess Jules as an example. She's a YouTube personality, and I hate to call her out, but she entered into a relationship with a man as a transgender woman, and she, at the time they entered the relationship, still had her penis, and eventually had it removed during the course of their relationship. Is her partner more or less satisfied with that? Is that something he now misses? Is that now something he's more glad to not have? And what part of that enters into this whole idea of being bisexual, and to what degree he is? And I would even argue this: does that even matter in terms of what she is and her identification as a lesbian or heterosexual female?
Well, I think that can be summed up because some people, bisexual or not, have kinks and fetishes that don't necessarily revolve around the ass or vagina. For example, some guys like to get titty fucked. So if this chick that by all means looks like a chick, got a nice pair of boobs on her, you're set. You don't, what goes on down below the belt doesn't really matter to you.
Like I said, I was trying to say earlier, it's a head game.
Yeah, I can see that.
Sexual attraction and orientation is all based upon what you mentally want. It's based upon in your head what you've developed over time to find attractive. And if that is a signifier that you find very unattractive, nothing's going to save that. The knowledge of it will not save you. Just like if you find, I don't know, poor hygiene really unattractive, and then you saw I skid mark all over the place all the time relationship, that could ruin that. Because even if you don't see it, you know it's there, you know? And the point is that we all have hang-ups and different disconnects in those areas. It's impossible to quantify it saying that lesbians can't find transgender women attractive. It makes zero sense.
So let's do closing thoughts because we're running a little long here.
What was my closing thought?
That was okay. Nat.
I would suppose my closing thought is that I think that the idea of that is ludicrous as well. I think that if you are attracted to certain characteristics, you will be attracted to them no matter what form they come in or what genetics produce that. Especially because the idea that a large part of the reason why HRT works to alleviate gender dysphoria is because it uses your own natural anatomy and genetics to produce the features of a female if you had been born with the opposite chromosomes. So you are, for all intents and purposes, the same kind of person minus the established genitals. You're essentially the same type of person you would have been had you been born female or male in the first place. So the idea that you could discriminate in that way is a little ludicrous, especially when you figure out the fact that other than puberty, what HRT does to you might as well produce the exact same things if you were cis.
Yeah, and that brings up my closing thoughts because I agree with both of you here. And kind of the argument, to sum up the argument that what I was getting to online was they kept saying female, biological, male. And my thought process on that is biologics all comes down to chemicals and hormones introduced into the fetus at a given time during development. So, that being said, if you go through hormone therapy, plastic surgery, and everything like that, okay, yeah, you're going to be missing maybe some key parts, but for all other intensive purposes, you're going to be male or female. So the whole biologic aspect of it is a null and void. That's like saying homosexuality is a mental disorder.
I actually agree with that wholeheartedly.
So,
yeah, I agree.
Like always, this is, our opinions on this, our different views from our own lives. Feel free to disagree. If you do, by all means, comment. We'll start a discussion, start a dialogue. Tell me why you feel the way you do. If you do agree, please like, share, and subscribe. As always, I'm Third Will, and this is Natty Cat.
Hello.
And Submarine Nick.
And as always, and forever, this has just been my humble perspective.